Hi, I'm Martin McGrath from Financial Edge Group, and I want to talk to you about my top 3 tips for looking after your investments when the share market's crashing. We're currently living in a pandemic and there's news on the share market, what's going on, people losing money, billions of dollars being wiped off, and these are my top 3 tips about something you can practically do to get an understanding and control over what's happening in your world. Step 1 is understand what your actual investment is set up to do. The share market, the headlines will say this much as billions been wiped off or something like that. Now that's just an average. It might not relate to what you're invested in. It might be the Australian share market, which is different to the US share market, different to European share markets. What you're invested in doesn't automatically equal the headline. Often it can be very different. You might even have much exposure to share market. So it's important to understand what exactly you're invested in. And even within that, the share market's made up of lots of different companies. Some of these companies are doing well in times like these and selling more than they were before. Some obviously aren't. So understand exactly what you're invested in and whether it's affected or not affected by what's going on. Step 2 or point 2 typically is stick to the plan. Focus on the long term. There's no point abandoning everything else right now while what things are going on. If you've got a plan in place and you're on a path, this is a speed bump or hiccup along the way. It's not a reason to abandon everything and start again. The markets do recover. We know that will happen. It will happen in a period of time. And often it happens much before we feel like we've recovered ourselves. Markets typically lead us down into a recession or a problem, but will lead us out before we get out ourselves. So stick to the plan. You'll be very thankful for what the outcome is. But in saying that, my third tip is consider and make some tweaks. I say tweaks and not changes or wholesale changes because there might be just a few things that you can do to take advantage of what's going on, either make it a bit more defensive or make it a bit more aggressive or change some companies you've currently got to some that have done better or some that are cheaper. There's still tweaks that can be made along the way. I don't think it's a case of just ignoring it, putting it in the drawer and not looking at it for 5 or 10 years. You still want to make sure about what's invested in, stick to the plan, but consider some tweaks along the way. Whether it's something you can do yourself, whether it's something that you leave to an expert, that depends on your circumstances. But I think it's still important to look at it, monitor it, and consider some tweaks that can be happening along the way. Hopefully that's helped. They're my tips about how to survive the volatility in the share market.